Hi, good morning. Happy Friday of quite a week for those of us who celebrate Christmas. It's been a very full week of activities and family for most of us, and just a full time. But now it's back to quiet, back to reflection, back to who we truly are, and all set and ready to go. This week, what I'm talking about as we move forward into our own development, into our own personal growth, into our own power, and coming into our own as we fully move from all the stages I've discussed so far in relationship to my book, Real Women Change the World, Letting the Good Girl Die so the Real Woman Can Live. As we move out of the Christmas holiday and prepare for the new year, it is, to me, a perfect time to take a look at the level of emotional intelligence you possess. This past week, for most folks, has brought up all the levels of personal development and emotional intelligence you've achieved and made you aware of all those areas in which you haven't quite achieved the level of emotional intelligence you would like. All right, because it's been one of those things that around family, around expectations we place on ourselves, expectations we place on our family, this holiday season, whatever your faith system, can bring up so many expectations of how it's supposed to be that we have to begin to deal with the reality of what is. And emotional intelligence is truly a key point in looking at that. And what I mean by emotional intelligence, just to start that off, it really relates to your own ability to know your own emotions, to identify your own emotions, and then the intelligence around those. Why are those emotions up at this point in time? What's going on for you? And when key emotions or uncomfortable emotions pop up, how do you handle them? How did you handle them in the past week or two or three when an uncomfortable emotion comes up? Do you collapse? Do you run and avoid the topic completely? What do you do when emotions show up that are uncomfortable for you? So it's really a good question, and I think an imperative one. You can't be an effective leader without a high level of emotional intelligence. But I think just as a human being walking through life, without it, we set ourselves up to fail more times than not. We set ourselves up to go into self-betrayal more times than not if we haven't developed a level of emotional intelligence that supports us in being fully present. Last week I discussed mindfulness, which is the ability to be present, the ability to understand who you are. And practicing mindfulness, as I discussed last week, it allows you to walk in self-awareness every day. This step of awareness then in terms of emotions is the first piece, is in acknowledging them, recognizing what you're feeling, then understanding them, what brought them up, what triggered any emotions that come up for you, wonderful emotions or uncomfortable emotions, what triggers them and brings them up. This supports you in developing your own level of emotional intelligence. And then the next step always is, what do you do with that? What do you do when you know these emotions are up? Where do you go with it? Do you become defensive and angry and act out? Do you fall into victim and disappear? Or do you sit with them and look at whether or not you want to act on them at this moment? Is this an appropriate time to act on them? Or do you want to wait and at another point in time when it is better suited to talking about this? All right. So looking at the difference here between the good girl and the real woman, again, as my book is about, checking out the good girl has an acute understanding of other people's needs. She has spent her life growing up aware of a desire to serve, a desire to be loved, a desire to be wanted. And she's achieved that by becoming so acutely aware of everybody's needs and wants, everybody else's needs and wants, so that she's able to meet them. She wants to even anticipate your needs so she can fill them before you even know they exist. If this is you, recognize that if you're all about service, and I truly believe in service, but if you are all about service to the point where you are absolutely aware of everybody else's needs and wants, without any understanding of your own needs and wants, there has been a huge imbalance taking place. It is your natural tendency as a good girl, I put in quotes, to be unconditionally loving and supportive, to understand other people, and that is certainly to be admired. The difficulty comes is that when it is at the expense of understanding yourself, that the price has become too high. You are walking your own spiritual journey. You are walking your own course of life. You understanding yourself allows you to begin to give from your fullness rather than depletion. It allows you to give with boundaries so that when you give to others, there will never be any resentment, any anger, any measuring how much have you given, how much have they given in return to justify bitterness and anger or illusions of victimization. So give fully, but when you give fully from your fullness rather than your depletion, you're really giving an unconditional love without any expectation. You're giving simply because that's who you are. And when you know yourself enough, when you have your own level of awareness of your own emotions, you recognize that when enough is enough. You stop before you become resentful, judgmental, or angry, and you give just because you can't imagine not. The real woman can be just as generous and just as loving. The difference is she has her own set of boundaries. She knows that she's booked solid, if you will, for the next 3 days, and that in the evening she has to stop, relax, catch up with herself, and prepare for the upcoming day. So she doesn't have any time to spend hours on the phone supporting different people. She doesn't have time to run around doing a dozen different things, but she will honestly commit that as soon as these next 2 or 3 days are over in which she is already solidly booked, she is more than willing to support and give and be there for you. She is just as loving, but recognizes she has to do self-care in that mix. That allows her to be a real woman without any sense of emotional baggage, if you will, without any sense of emotional resentment and bitterness. It's not that the good girl is unfinished and the real woman is perfectly done. None of us are done to the day we go home. None of us are finished. It's just a different level of development. So that as a good girl, when your tendency is to always understand the other with no understanding of yourself, give yourself permission. Give yourself permission to begin to step back and look at what is it that you need and want. What is it that would make you happy? What is it that would make you feel fully alive, fully present? So that the greatest gift you give people is you. When you understand yourself emotionally, you know that. And in all honesty, I think every one of us has recognized those points in time when we realized the best thing we can do for the world as well as for us is to stop, go home, lock all the doors and the windows, and just stop with a cup of tea or a glass of wine, whatever is your comfort zone, and just do some self-care or go get a massage. What do you need emotionally? What needs of yours emotionally are not being filled, and what can you do to fill them? When you're feeling lonely or lost, do you have a place where you can go to get those needs met? Or have you been so focused on being that person for everybody else, you've never stopped to look at what do you need? What's going on for you? When you're at that place in life, which I think most all of us have been through, when you're feeling antsy, when there's something missing, when there's something that you know there's a piece missing in your life, there's something that you want. Are you able to stop, identify what that emotion is about, identify what that experience is for you? Do you have permission from you to stop and discover what it is that is missing so that you can identify emotionally? It's not just something's missing. Let's look deeper. What is missing in your life? What do you need? The gift of understanding that allows you the ability to continuously develop, continuously to become more you, continuously follow the emotional and spiritual awarenesses that show up for you because they are always calling you to the next step. They are always calling you to the next level. What I have discovered in my work with women of various stages, whether they are presidents of hospitals or they are just starting out or housewives, women just going through divorce or whatever the situation may be, is that the ability to stop and think allows you to connect emotionally with who you are. So many women I know play stuck. They are stuck, but they don't have time to stop and look within. They don't have time to reassess where they are in their lives, who they are in their lives, and who they want to become in their lives. And unless we stop to live at a level that has far more depth emotionally, far more of that emotional intelligence of what makes you tick, and that shifts and changes as you go through life. Unless you have that ability to identify that, you don't really know where you're going next in your life. You don't know exactly what you're needing. Emotional eating. Emotional eating is all about not identifying your emotions. You're running from them through food or unfortunately through alcohol or through drugs because emotionally you haven't stopped to identify what's missing. The compulsive overachiever. Again, emotionally, if you can stop and identify what's going on with you, you don't move into those addictive or self-destructive behaviors because you haven't taken the time. If you are stuck, rather than running, stop. If you were playing dumb, I don't know what I need, I don't have the time to find out, stop and look. The gift you're giving yourself is that when you are fully aware of what's going on emotionally and you're at peace, you have the ability to be fully aware for those around you. If you're a leader, you have the ability to recognize when others you are working with may be in struggle. You have the ability to recognize when people in your personal life may be in struggle because you've identified what that feels like and looks like for you. Can you imagine that having a boss or being that boss, being that leader who is so aware of his or her own emotional up and downs that you always can stop and come back to center? What that means is not only are you practicing mindfulness, you're practicing a level of self-awareness that supports you to be fully present emotionally and spiritually with the people around you. It allows you to be fully present to where your company is going, where you want it to go. Also fully present to those around you and what's happening with them. And what I'm talking about here also implies that you're fully aware of all the decisions you've made so far in your life. That you stop and look at the fact that your life is exactly where you brought it. We've all had things in the outside world impact us, but how we responded to the outside world really defines how we're living our life. How we respond to our own responses to the outside world defines what we're doing with our lives. So take responsibility that every choice you have made in your life, whether it is to be aware or to be unaware, to know or not want to know, every one of the choices you have made in your life have created the life you have right now. When you can do that, you lose the ability to play victim. When you do that, you lose the ability to pretend you are the only person in the world who's had difficult times. You lose the ability to pretend everybody else has had it perfectly easy. When you choose to be emotionally intelligent, owning that your life is exactly where you brought it, you begin to see that with all of the things that have come in and out of your life, all the relationships that have come in and out of your life, you had a huge part in every piece of that in bringing those relationships in, as well as in letting them go. You didn't have to let anybody in your life, and you certainly didn't have to keep anybody in your life. All the things that have happened has been the result of your choice. Just look at that. To me, that is an absolutely freeing level of self-awareness. It is an absolutely freeing gift that says, going forward, where I choose to go and the amount of investment I make is absolutely up to me. I may want to make these next steps in my life. I may want to achieve this in my life. These are the things I want to do to prepare for them, because I know emotionally I don't like to show up anywhere unprepared. I feel inadequate. I go into feeling frightened, feeling overwhelmed, and I don't want those emotions. So if I'm going to walk into something, to an event, to a speaking engagement, to a UN Global Summit that I will be speaking at, I'm going to go in there knowing I've done all the research I can, because that's what allows me to feel good in my own skin. So recognize whatever you bring into your life, however you choose to deal with it, is a result of that. If you hate the job you're in, why are you staying? If you love the job you're in, what are you doing to make it even better? These are really understanding your emotions, understanding how you're dealing with them, or not. These are really the things that allow you to say, I'm exactly in the position I've created. And if in any way I don't like it, I have the ability to change it by understanding what's going on with me, understanding what the difficulties are, how I'm experiencing, and how I want to change them. And as a real woman, everything becomes completely clean. There are no strings attached. There are no blaming situations. There are no resentment situations. There are no victims. You don't bother rationalizing. You just deal with what is and you find a solution. The difference is, as a real woman, understanding your own emotions, you don't blame anything on anybody else. It is your life. It's your so-called mistakes. I don't believe in mistakes, but the mistakes you've made, if that's how you choose to see it. The decisions you've made have prepared you for where you're going next. So take a look at that and recognize that when you have that much honesty with yourself, these are decisions I made. They may have been with the best amount of knowledge I had at the moment, which unfortunately wasn't everything I needed, but so I now need to let that go and move on. It's so much better than staying stuck. You have honesty, you have freedom, you have personal empowerment just by taking self-responsibility and self-appreciation. And recognize that no matter where you are in your life, you could have made other choices that have taken you in far more self-destructive ways. You could have made other choices that took you in far more self-sabotaging ways repeatedly. If you're even listening to this, my guess is that you're at a place in your life where you truly want to own responsibility for where you are. You're ready to make changes in your life, whether you're changing the outside to something dramatically different or changing because you're now ready for the next level of growth. But be present emotionally. And looking back over what we've done so far, checking out your mindset. What is the mindset as you go forward in your life? Are you communicating exactly what you want without any strings attached, without any blame or resentment? Are you living a life of mindfulness? Are you taking that time to be truly present to you? And then finally for today, are you willing to develop the emotional understanding of what your emotions are in your life? What emotions are you comfortable with? What emotions are you running from? What emotions are you collapsing into so you can pretend that your emotions are bigger than you are? They never are. Emotions are a very small component of what makes you you. So when people say, I can't help myself, I get angry, or I can't help myself, I play victim, you absolutely can help yourself in 30 seconds or less. Identify the emotions that support you and enhance them enormously. Identify the emotions that cause you to do self-betrayal, the emotions that for you cause you to stay stuck, or cause you to be filled with so much fear you're terrified of going forward. Identify the emotions you possess. Own them. Recognize you can shift them in a moment. We're not aware even of what emotions we wake up with in the morning. We wake up with whatever emotion comes up as a result of a dream life, as a result of our state. The choices we have, do we want to stay there? If you woke up depressed today, you can stay depressed all day or recognize that's not my choice. I want to look at what that's about, and I'm choosing this emotion to walk through my day with. We absolutely have that choice. It's not faking it. It's honestly choosing to identify whatever emotion you want to walk through your day with. Notice what emotions you default with as I close. Notice the emotions you default into. Do you default into overwhelmed? Do you default into depression? Do you default into anger? We all have emotions we default into. It's not good or bad. It just is a result of our childhood, a result of so many factors. But as real women, we now have a choice to look at what emotions we choose to default into. My choice at this point in my life is to default into hopefulness, happiness, unlimited capability, so that I'm filled with the awareness that there is no limit other than the ones I create. Also know that when you default into those that don't support you, you have a way out. I know that when I feel overwhelmed or depressed and I can't just kick it off in 30 seconds by taking a deep breath and moving forward, I know it works for me. I have a DVD of Mamma Mia. I put on Mamma Mia, and I swear to you, within 5 minutes, I'm singing the songs, I'm up and I'm back and I'm alive. And if I took a 15-minute break from my day to bring me back, I have now taken 15 minutes away, yes, from what was a very structured day. But that 15 minutes away allowed me to come back so that my productivity is massive because I'm in a far better place rather than toughing it out for the rest of the day in an emotion I don't feel I can get a hold on to. Understand when you need support. Welcome to humanity. Recognize what you need. If you can't do that, you're in the car and something else comes up, is calling a friend going to do that for you? Is stepping back and taking a deep breath? When I step back and take a deep breath in some meetings that are not going at all productively from my perspective, I step back, take a deep breath, close my eyes, and I'm back on Anguilla, walking into that glorious water and being at peace. And literally 10, 15 seconds, I'm back. Know what you need to have inner peace. Know what you need to have emotional balance and emotional intelligence. I wish that for all of you. Thank you so very, very much, and have a great day. I'll talk to you next week at the same time, 10 o'clock. Bye-bye.